Hello friends, Lee Seacamp here. More great stuff from A.J. Levine today. Enjoy. Amy Jill Levine is University Professor of New Testament and Jewish Studies at Vanderbilt Divinity here in Nashville, Tennessee. She's authored many books, including Short Stories by Jesus, as well as The Misunderstood Jew, and she recently co-edited the Jewish Annotated New Testament. She is a self-described Yankee Jewish feminist who teaches in a predominantly Christian divinity school in the buckle of the Bible Belt, teaching New Testament. Please welcome Professor Amy Jill Levine. Welcome. Grateful to have you back after a few.
I was wondering when you were going to invite me back.
Yes, well, I think as we said before the show that you're probably the first interviewee we've ever had back for a second time.
Well, so, good for the Jews. Yes.
So it's conventional wisdom that art and story and song have this kind of capacity to jar us into seeing the world in new ways. And your recent book, Short Stories by Jesus, suggests that parables work in a similar kind of fashion?
Pretty much. What's happened today is parables get domesticated. They're banal, and they're obvious, and therefore they're boring. But if we could hear the parables the way they were first heard to the people who first heard them, we could capture that punch and that provocation as to why anybody would have followed Jesus to begin with.
How do we end up getting banal, taking provocative stories and turning them into banal and conventional wisdom?
No, because we're scared and because we want closure. We just heard in this wonderful story how God can't be boxed in. What we do with our interpretation is we try to box God in, we try to control, we try to prevent the parables from speaking in different ways to different people.
So give us an example of one parable that operates that way.
Well, we've all heard of the prodigal son. And yes? Good. Christians. Yeah. And it's typically understood
They can probably give you the Lord's Prayer as well.
Yes. Now I lay me down to sleep. So it's typically understood as God loves us even if we mess up big time. That's what it usually, and that's a lovely message. But Jews did not need a parable to do. We already knew God loves us, right? Golden calf, not one of our better moments. So we knew that God was there. What we miss is it's the third of three parables. There's a guy who has 100 sheep and loses one, and there's a woman who has 10 coins and loses one. And I already know that they're not God because God doesn't lose us. And then I have a story that begins, there was a man who had 2 sons, and all we do is focus on the younger one and whatever he did. But when he comes home and Dad throws him the party with the fatted calf, the very next line is the older brother was out in the field and he heard music and dancing. And he has to call someone to ask what's going on. And he's told, your brother has come back safe and sound. And he became angry and refused to go in. In other words, they had enough time to call the band and the caterer. And nobody called him because there was a man who had 2 sons and he didn't count. So the parable says to us, whom have we not counted? Whom have we overlooked? Whom have we made to feel as if your voice doesn't count? And the parable therefore indicts us to make sure that we do the counting that's necessary so that we make sure we don't lose anybody.
I've never heard that. That's really very fine.
And how many years have you been a Christian? I mean, really?
Give us quickly one other parable.
The parable of the pearl of great price. The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one pearl of enormous value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. And we come into the church, bless its heart, and the church says, it's a pearl is the kingdom, the pearl is the Christ, the pearl is salvation, the pearl is the church. Or maybe Jesus is the merchant who gave it all for us, or maybe we don't know. And all we try to do is tame this thing. But what we miss is the merchant actually knew what he wanted, and as soon as he bought that pearl, he's no longer a merchant anymore. He's a guy with a pearl. So what it says to us is, do we know when enough is enough? Can we take what we really need? Can we even recognize it? And do we recognize our neighbor's pearl of great price? What is the most important thing in our lives, and what is the most important thing in our neighbor's lives? And how can we even say, I love my neighbor as myself if I don't recognize my neighbor's pearl?
Thank you. There's tonight we're talking about songs as another kind of art form that sets up either provocative or conventional understandings of God. One of the great critiques, or I don't know if it's great or not, but one of the common critiques of contemporary Christian music is that it's kind of like playing good romantic music and sticking Jesus in there.
Instead of baby.
Baby Jesus, or sweet baby Jesus, or, What do you make of, from your take on parables and stories and art form, what do you make of that kind of critique? Too much personal Jesus stuff for you?
Far be it from me to tell Christians how to sing, right? If it works for you, terrific, I'm happy, and it keeps you out of trouble. But what the Bible does is open up, it's an entire song. Right at the beginning, it's the Spirit of God hovering. That hovering is noise, it's vibration. Israel is told, hear, O Israel. In other words, listen, use your ears. The text tells us that nature sings the glory of God. The songs in the Bible range from lament to celebration, to thanksgiving, to complete joy, to military victory, to politics, like bringing the mighty down from their thrones and raising up those of low degree. That's Mary's song. So the entire text is one giant song, and although we're continually told, sing a new song, what we really do is sing very, very old songs, but always in a new key, because each generation has to claim those songs for itself.
Professor Amy Jill Levine, she'll be back second half of our show.
Thank you.
Thank you.